Hey there! Welcome back to Bull and Bill, where we break down today's economic twists and turns for you. The big question we're tackling today, is the US economy in a recession? You've seen prices soar, interest rates go up, and talk of an economic downturn everywhere. So let's take a close look at the data and the expert opinions to really answer this question. First, let's lay down the foundation. A recession, in simple terms, is a significant decline in economic activity across the economy, usually lasting more than a few months. Technically, it's often signaled by 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. However, that's not the whole story. These days, economists look beyond GDP alone. They consider employment rates, consumer spending, and a range of other indicators to get a fuller picture. One widely respected recession indicator is the Sahm rule. It flags a recession if the national unemployment rate rises 0.5% or more from its lowest point in the last year. So where do we stand right now? The unemployment rate has held steady, around 3.8% as of the latest data, suggesting that, by traditional measures, we're not in a recession. Yet, there's a subtle shift happening. While unemployment numbers haven't spiked, sectors like tech and finance have slowed hiring, while others, like hospitality, face demand for workers. Economists argue that the labor market's complexity could mean broader issues don't show up in overall unemployment just yet. Let's dive into GDP, or gross domestic product, which measures the value of all goods and services produced in the economy. According to recent reports, the US GDP has shown modest growth, especially in areas like healthcare and retail. However, sectors like manufacturing and real estate are showing signs of slowing down. This slowdown is significant because manufacturing and real estate often act as leading indicators of the broader economy. Think of it this way: when people stop buying homes, real estate stalls. Builders cut back on projects, which impact suppliers and workers, who in turn spend less, creating a ripple effect through the economy. Now let's turn to consumer spending, a critical part of the US economy that makes up about 70% of our GDP. As of the latest data, spending remains strong, but is increasingly fueled by debt and savings, which can be risky. CBS News recently reported that people are turning more to credit cards to maintain their lifestyle amid high prices. With household debt at record highs, many are feeling stretched. For example, many Americans are using credit to fund essentials, things like groceries, gas, and utilities. But this type of spending can't last forever. Eventually, debt loads catch up, and people have to cut back. When spending falls, businesses make less revenue, which can lead to layoffs and slower growth. That's how consumer behavior can signal future economic trouble. Let's not forget inflation and interest rates. The Federal Reserve has raised rates multiple times in an effort to slow inflation, aiming for what's called a soft landing, lowering inflation without triggering a recession. But high rates make it more expensive to borrow for things like homes and cars. This slows economic growth, as people hesitate to take on big financial commitments. Here's a real-world effect. Imagine a family looking to buy a home. A year ago, they could get a mortgage at 3%, but now, they're looking at rates closer to 7%. That difference can add hundreds to their monthly payment, leading many to hold off on buying altogether. This slowdown affects real estate, which, as we mentioned, ripples out to other sectors. So, where does the job market stand? Officially, unemployment remains low. However, if we dig a little deeper, we see caution across sectors. Tech and finance are slowing their hiring, while lower-wage industries like hospitality are still in need of workers. According to NerdWallet, job gains are mainly in service sectors like healthcare, hospitality, and government. But the nature of these jobs matters. Service jobs tend to offer lower wages and fewer benefits. So while jobs exist, the quality and stability of those jobs may not be enough to drive significant consumer spending long-term. Additionally, wage growth is slowing, meaning people are seeing their paychecks grow at a slower rate than prices, a subtle yet significant factor. Household debt is another factor adding to the economic strain. Data from the Federal Reserve shows credit card debt has hit record highs, with many families carrying balances month to month. This isn't just a minor detail. It signals that people are relying on credit to cover essentials. And then there's the matter of savings. Many Americans built up savings during the pandemic thanks to stimulus checks and reduced spending opportunities, but those savings are shrinking fast. As people dip into these funds, they have less of a cushion if the economy worsens. In fact, The decline in savings has led to an increase in late payments on credit card bills, a warning sign that many people are financially stretched. Now, what are economists predicting? Forbes reports that many experts anticipate a mild recession this 2024, especially if the Federal Reserve keeps rates high. With inflation still above target, the Fed may not lower rates soon, which could cool the economy further. It's a balancing act. High interest rates could curb inflation, but if they stay elevated too long, borrowing becomes costly, which can reduce consumer spending and business investment. This delicate balancing act could ultimately lead to a recession if the economy can't sustain current debt and spending levels. We've seen similar economic patterns in the past. In the early 1990s and early 2000s, the US economy faced near recessions where growth slowed, but we didn't enter a full recession. According to US bank analysts, this period feels similar, a cooling economy without an outright contraction. So, are we experiencing an economic rebalancing rather than a recession? Some experts believe so. Post-pandemic, our economy is adapting to higher rates, changing consumer behaviors, and shifts in the labor market. This rebalancing could prevent a full recession, but it requires careful management. Now, what does this all mean for you and me? For most Americans, it means budgeting is more important than ever. If you're looking for a job, hiring might be slower. If you're buying a home or car, high interest rates will make it pricier. And with inflation still in the picture, your dollar may not stretch as far as it used to. Many families are already feeling the pinch. A recent survey shows that more than 60% of households have cut back on non-essential spending, like dining out and vacations, and to manage rising costs in housing, food, and utilities. This belt-tightening trickles down to affect businesses and jobs in sectors tied to discretionary spending. Let's address some common misconceptions. Does high inflation mean we're in a recession? Not exactly. Inflation signals rising prices, while a recession signals a decrease in economic activity. While they're related, they don't automatically go hand in hand. Another question we get: do we need to see job losses for a recession to occur? Technically no, but rising unemployment is a common sign. What we're seeing now is a slowdown in hiring, which can lead to job losses if the economy cools further. So here's the takeaway. While the US isn't technically in a recession, we're in a fragile economic position. Rising interest rates, high debt levels, and inflation are all signs of an economy under strain. Experts are watching closely, and so should we. Thanks for tuning in to Bull and Bill. Hit that like button. If you found this helpful, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to stay updated on economic trends. We're here to help you navigate these uncertain times with clarity and confidence. See you soon.